There's little doubt left in Americans' minds after this past weekend that Donald Trump has in fact lost his mind. Conservatives, conservative pundits, supporters of Donald Trump on Truth Social, and of course, pretty much everybody on the left lashed out at Donald Trump and basically said that he's not well, to put it mildly. And in case you're wondering what sparked all this, it was a series of posts on Truth Social where Donald Trump very clearly and obviously showcased his mental illnesses by denying the very reality. One of these, of course, was a post where he said that he is actually winning in all the real polls, even though that is exact opposite of what's happening. He's not winning in any of them. That's an insane claim to make. But it was when he decided to say that all the crowds at Kamala Harris's rallies were actually just CGI. He said it was AI. They were using AI, Trump claimed, to make it look like there were actually crowds at Kamala's rallies. I'll read you that post. Has anyone noticed that Kamala cheated at the airport? There was nobody at the plane, but she AI'd it and showed a massive crowd of so-called followers, but they didn't exist. She was turned in by a maintenance worker at the airport when he noticed the fake crowd picture, but there was nobody there, later confirmed by the reflection of the mirror-like finish on the vice presidential plane. She is a cheater. She had nobody waiting and the crowd looked like 10,000 people. Same thing is happening with her fake crowds at her speeches. This is the way the Democrats win elections, by cheating, blah, blah, blah. I'm insane. Now, here's the fun part. George Conway, of course, ex-husband of Kellyanne Conway, he reposted this on Twitter on Sunday, and he said simply, he is delusional, literally. And I could not agree with George Conway more about that statement. But there was another response. Raw Story pointed this out. Another user on social media said, this should be the lead story on every news broadcast. Trump is senile, delusional, and unfit. Someone take his keys away. The problem with that comment is that before I even saw the comment, I went around and I looked. On Monday morning, the day after Donald Trump showed that he is suffering from a serious mental illness on Sunday. So Monday morning, you would think, obviously this is the biggest story. Donald Trump lost his mind in full view of the public. Conservatives are attacking him for it. Liberals are attacking him for it. The country is united in screaming at the top of our lungs that Donald Trump is mentally ill. Washington Post, Politico, New York Times, NBC News, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, Newsmax, those were to be expected. Not a single one of them, not one of them on Monday morning had that story. They didn't even talk about the Post at all. Not one story on the biggest media outlet websites in this country, not effing one. Maybe they covered it on Sunday. Maybe you're saying, but Farron, I saw them talk about it on Sunday. Okay, well, 9 to 10 hours later, those stories were disappeared off the front pages. As if it didn't even happen, as if it didn't matter, as if it wasn't still the biggest story in this country, that Donald Trump is suffering a severe psychotic meltdown on Truth Social. I'm sorry, but I think that warrants a little more coverage than just a couple hours on the front page before disappearing it, if they even covered it at all, which it doesn't appear that most of those outlets did. There is no excuse for this. I mean, you would think maybe NBC, right, that owns MSNBC, maybe they would, right? They're the left-leaning network. They got to be calling Trump out for this. On their website, nope, they didn't. They simply didn't. Oh, sure, some of the shows talked about it on the air, but a lot of folks get their news online, right? So if you're not watching cable news, which, fewer than 1% of the country is, they're not getting that story. I am beyond pissed off here. The only major website that I looked at that actually had the story was The Hill, but they only had it in the context of George Conway says Trump is delusional following latest Truth Social rant. I'm pretty sure that was, almost verbatim their headline. So they only covered it at The Hill because George Conway said something on Twitter that kind of blew up. Raw Story and everybody else on the left, Raw Story had 4 separate stories on it, by the way, by Monday morning. Probably still more throughout the day because it was a big story and deserved that kind of coverage. Raw Story did a great job. Every other outlet on the left did a phenomenal job. They were all talking about it. Conservatives on social media were talking about it, okay? It's not like this is just an issue with the left. Trump got absolutely destroyed by his own followers on social media, including some very high-profile, very large MAGA influencer accounts who called him out for this. And the big corporate media outlets, including, by the way, ABC and CBS as well, didn't cover it, didn't talk about it. This man, Donald J. Trump, the Republican nominee for President of the United States, is having a complete and total nervous breakdown where he is denying reality, creating a fiction and trying to sell it to the public, and the corporate media couldn't be bothered to even talk about it. That is insane. The media has an obligation to cover these stories. The media has an obligation to reach out to mental health professionals and get their analysis of these reality-defying statements that Donald Trump is making. The only person I have seen consistently do this over the last few years is Chauncey DeVega at Salon.com. He has been the very best at reaching out to the mental health professionals, interviewing them, doing the interviews, posting it on Salon.com for years now. And they've been telling us long before these posts, something's wrong with Trump. They have suggested everything from just plain old delusional to possibly senile, possibly Alzheimer's, possibly dementia. And honestly, at this point, with Donald Trump's denial of reality, we may want to look at, paranoid schizophrenia at this point. But Chauncey DeVega is about one of the only people out there regularly talking to the experts who are repeatedly warning us that something is wrong with Trump. The corporate media has to do that. The public has to be aware of this. And I know if you're watching this, you're listening to this, whatever, you've seen it, you've heard about it, you see it on social media. That's great. Majority of the country does not tune in to this show. Majority of the country is not watching any of the other left-wing podcasters out there doing this too. Majority of the country is turning into their local news. Maybe they'll watch an hour or two of cable news each night, and that's it. So they're not getting this story. And they have to have it. The media has to do better. Because if they don't, the longer they ignore this, the more they are helping Donald Trump. And yes, that includes CNN and MSNBC and NBC News. And you can't just talk about it in your broadcast. You have to put the story out there for people to click and share. They have to be able to read it. They need to see this Trump quote for themselves. Rachel Maddow doing 5 or 10 minutes on it isn't enough. You've got to put it out there and keep it alive, because this is a symptom. These posts from Trump are symptoms. And the American public is not being told that there is something dangerously wrong with this man that wants to be the next president of the United States. One of today's video sponsors is Miracle Made. Did you know that traditional bed sheets can actually harbor more bacteria than a toilet seat? It can lead to acne, allergies, stuffy noses, and it's just plain gross. Miracle Made offers a whole line of self-cleaning antibacterial bedding such as sheets, pillowcases, and comforters that prevent up to 99.7% of bacteria growth and require up to 3 times less laundry. These sheets are infused with silver that prevent up to 99.7% of bacterial growth, leaving them to stay cleaner and fresh 3 times longer than other sheets. No more gross odors. Miracle Made uses silver-infused fabrics inspired by NASA, and their sheets are thermoregulating and designed to keep you at the perfect temperature all night long, so you get better sleep every night. Miracle sheets are luxuriously comfortable without the high price tag of other luxury brands, and they feel as nice, if not nicer, than bed sheets used by some 5-star hotels. And it's designed for your skin. Stop sleeping on bacteria. Bacteria can clog your pores, causing breakouts and acne, and you can sleep clean with Miracle. Now, I've been using Miracle Made bed sheets for nearly 2 years now, and I absolutely love them. They help keep me cool throughout the night, which means I get better sleep because I'm not waking up all throughout the night from being too hot. So go to trymiracle.com/ROF to try Miracle Made sheets today. And whether you're buying them for yourself or as a gift for a loved one, if you order today, you can save over 40%. And if you use our promo code ROF at checkout, you'll get 3 free towels and save an extra 20%. Miracle is so confident in their product that it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you'll get a full refund. Upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to trymiracle.com/ROF and use the code ROF to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40% off. Again, that's trymiracle.com/ROF to treat yourself.